We've been at this for a few weeks now, maybe a month. You started strong, you were consistent, you felt like this time is different. And then one morning, you wake up and nothing. No motivation, no drive, just heavy resistance. And you panic. I'm already losing it. This must not be for me. But here's what I want to talk about today. What happens when motivation fades? Because it will fade, always. And what actually sustains you when that initial spark is gone? We're moving from action into integration, from white-knuckling consistency to embodied identity. Let's talk about what that actually means. Here's what nobody tells you when you start. Motivation always fades. That New Year energy, gone by February. That I'm finally doing this feeling lasts maybe 2 weeks. That spark you got when you started, it's designed to start you, not sustain you. Like you'll have that one perfect week where you're hitting the gym, journaling, doing your morning routine, posting it all, and then you sleep through your alarm once and suddenly it's been 3 weeks and you're back rotting in bed scrolling. And when it fades, you're left with one question. Is this who I am? Or is this just something I do when I feel like it? The women who actually transform aren't the ones who stay motivated forever. They're the ones who keep showing up after motivation leaves. They train on days where they don't feel like it, when they're tired, when it would be easier to skip. Not because they're superhuman, but because I train is a part of their identity now. This is the shift from motivation dependent to identity integrated practice. When you're motivation dependent, you need external push. You need to feel excited. You need conditions to be perfect. When you're identity integrated, however, you just show up because that's just what you do. That's who you are. This shift doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen if you understand what you're building toward. So here's where it gets really uncomfortable. There's a phase where you're no longer who you were, but you're not yet who you're becoming. And it feels awful. You've outgrown old patterns, but haven't stepped fully into new ones yet. Your old identity says, this isn't me, but your new identity hasn't solidified yet. You're in between worlds, and it's disorienting. You're not the girl who says yes to everything anymore, but you're also not fully comfortable saying no. You're not partying like you used to, but you haven't found your new people yet. You're just in between, and it's lonely as hell. You might catch yourself in the mirror and think, who is this person? Not because you look different yet, but because you're acting different. You're the person who trains now, and your brain and body haven't caught up yet. Your friends might not recognize you. You might not recognize yourself. This is the chrysalis phase, the breakdown before the rebuild. And this is where most people quit, because it's deeply uncomfortable to not know who you are, to feel like you're dissolving. But this discomfort isn't a sign you're doing it wrong. It's a sign that you're actually transforming. When we think of like the caterpillar, for example, it doesn't gradually become a butterfly. It completely dissolves first. It turns into liquid, then reorganizes into something entirely new. You can't become someone new while desperately clinging to who you were. The old has to dissolve before the new can form. And there's this weird grief for the version of you that got to be unconscious, that didn't think about nervous system regulation or whether she was living in alignment. Sometimes I miss her, the one who didn't know better yet. So if you're in this phase right now, if you feel like you don't know who you are anymore, that's not failure. That's the transformation happening. Sit with it, as uncomfortable as it is, because on the other side of this dissolution is the person you are becoming. And here's the hard part about transformation that people don't talk about. You can't carry everything with you into your next season. Some things have to be released. Maybe it's the friend group that only knows you as the one who's always down to go out, and now you're the one leaving early or not drinking or actually keeping commitments to yourself. And they make jokes about you being too good for them now. You're not. You're just different. Maybe it's the identity of being chronically in line, or being the high-functioning anxiety girly, or just a girl with her emotional support iced coffee. These aren't personality traits. They're coping mechanisms you've romanticized, and they have to go. Maybe it's the comfort of staying small, of not threatening anyone, or being easy to be around. Real transformation requires letting go. Not because you're abandoning who you were, but because who you're becoming needs space. And here's what I've learned. When you build physical strength, you can't help but build everything else. Your boundaries get stronger. Your tolerance for disrespect drops. Your willingness to shrink for others' comfort, gone. And that makes people uncomfortable. Sometimes the people closest to you feel threatened, not because you're judging them, but because the change implies that change is possible. And if change is possible, they may have to look at their own choices. That's not your responsibility to manage. They might say, "You've changed," like an accusation. And you know what? They're right. You have changed. That's the point. Their discomfort is information about them, not you. You're not responsible for managing other people's feelings about your growth. Some relationships will shift, some will end, some will deepen. That's part of the process. You can't pour new wine into old wine skins. The container has to change too. Now, let's talk about why your body might be fighting you, even though you consciously want this. You wake up determined to train, but somehow you see through your alarm. You plan your workout, but you forget and do something else instead. You're making progress, then you sabotage it. Or you'll finally build a routine, and then suddenly you're doom scrolling until 3 a.m. again, sleeping through all your alarms. Your body literally pulling you back into the old pattern because at least that pattern is known. So you think, I must not really want this. But here's what's actually happening. Your nervous system is protecting you from the unknown. Change, even positive change, registers as a threat to your body. Your body doesn't know the difference between dangerous change and growth change. It just knows new equals unknown equals potentially unsafe. So it tries to keep you in familiar patterns, even if those patterns aren't serving you anymore. This is why you can consciously want transformation while unconsciously sabotaging it. Your prefrontal cortex says, let's get strong. Your limbic system says, but we've survived this way for years. Why risk changing? The solution isn't to override your body with more willpower. That just creates more internal conflict. The solution is to give your nervous system evidence that the new pattern is safe through small, repeated exposures, through consistency that builds trust. Before training, I literally place my hand on my chest and say, we're doing something good for us. It sounds cringe, but your nervous system doesn't speak English. It speaks sensation and repetition and safety signals. So, through proving over and over, we do this and nothing bad happens. We do this and we're actually okay. We do this and we get stronger. That's how you shift from resistance to integration. You're not forcing your body to comply. You're showing it that this new way is safe. So how do you know when you've actually integrated? Here's what integration looks like. You stop negotiating with yourself every single time. So there's no more should I or shouldn't I debate before every workout. You just show up. Like brushing your teeth. It's non-negotiable because it's part of who you are now. And bad days still happen, but they don't derail you anymore. You train even when it's not perfect because the practice matters more than the performance. You stop tracking motivation and start tracking consistency. You know that showing up is the point, not how you feel about it. Some days you'll be that girl, structured, disciplined, embodied. Other days you'll dissociate for 6 hours on TikTok and feel like a complete fraud. Both are a part of it. You're not regressing, you're just being human in a body. And yeah, some days you'll film the whole workout and post nothing because the lighting was off. That's fine. You still did it. This is the shift from white-knuckling to integration. white-knuckling is forcing yourself through sheer willpower. It's exhausting. It doesn't last. Integration is when training becomes a part of your identity. You don't have to force it anymore because it's just what you do. You know it's integrated when you're on a girls' trip and everybody is staying up late and you just want to move your body in the morning. Not because you're rigid, because you feel weird without it now. So how do you get there? Through repetition that builds neural pathways. Through proving to your nervous system over and over, this is what we do now. And then until one day you realize you're not trying to be consistent anymore. You just are. That's integration. And the embodied self is structured around this exact progression, from effortful practice to embodied identity. And I want to be really clear about what you're actually building here, because it's not just about getting in shape. Physical transformation is the vehicle, not the destination. What you're actually building is mental resilience, the capacity to sit with discomfort without collapsing or numbing out. Emotional regulation, using your breath and movement to shift your nervous system state instead of staying stuck. Self-trust, proving to yourself through repeated action that you do what you say you will do. Body sovereignty, command over what's actually yours. Your choices, your boundaries, your energy. Presence, the ability to be in your body instead of 6 inches above it. Managing life through your head. And this cascades into everything else. Like my friend who started lifting and then suddenly couldn't do the situation shifting anymore. She didn't sit down and decide, I deserve better. Her body just stopped accepting breadcrumbs. That's the cascade. Work discipline improves. You show up differently in relationships. You stop tolerating disrespect. You set boundaries without guilt. Your friends start asking what you're doing differently, not because you're posting gym selfies, but because your energy shifted. You're less reactive, less available for drama, more solid in yourself. Because when you build physical strength, you can't help but build everything else. That's what the embodied self is about. It uses strength training as a framework, but what you're really building is a completely different relationship with yourself and your capacity. So if you're in that uncomfortable phase right now, if motivation has faded and you're wondering if you can sustain this, let me tell you, you're right on schedule. This is the phase that separates people who cycle through the same patterns forever from people who actually transform. Motivation fades. That's not failure. That's when the real work begins. The discomfort of not knowing who you are anymore, that's simply a chrysalis phase. Stay with it. The resistance from your body is protecting you. Show it the new pattern is safe. And remember, integration doesn't mean you've arrived. It means you keep coming back. You'll drift away into stress, old patterns, disconnection. That's human. The strength is in how quickly you return to your body. If you're listening to this at 2 a.m. in a doom scroll, I see you. Close the app after this. That's the practice. The embodied self is the complete framework for this journey. 24 weeks from survival mode to embodied identity. Not motivation, structure. Not perfection, practice. If you're ready to move forward from white-knuckling to integration, a link is in the description. Thanks for being here. Thanks for doing this work. Keep showing up. Keep returning. You're building something that lasts.